Today, we are taking a fresh look at a story you think you know. We're diving deep into the Gunpowder Plot and asking a question that's been whispered for over 400 years. Was this a simple act of failed terror, or was it one of the most successful government setups in history?
Right. We all know the rhyme. It's practically a nursery rhyme. It tells this really simple story, a villain, a hero king, and a whole country saved just in the nick of time. It's the clean, simple version we were all taught.
But what if that neat and tidy story is exactly what the government wanted you to believe? The theory we're digging into today suggests that the official story is full of holes, huge holes, and that the truth is way more complicated and honestly, a lot more sinister. Okay, so to even start to understand the conspiracy theory, we first have to get the official story straight. Let's think of this part as the original crime scene. This is the version of events that King James's government put out to the public back in 1605.
First up, let's meet the cast of characters, according to the official version. You've got Robert Catesby. He's the charismatic, passionate leader. Then there's Guy Fawkes, the guy who knows his way around explosives. Thomas Percy is their inside man, the one who gets them access. And finally, Francis Tresham, a wealthy cousin who gets roped in late to help bankroll the whole thing.
And the official timeline seems pretty simple, too. The plotters swear a secret oath, they get a lease on a cellar in the perfect location, a mysterious letter shows up that saves the day, and then boom, a dramatic midnight discovery of Guy Fawkes, standing guard over enough gunpowder to blow the entire government into the next kingdom. Simple, right? Well, maybe not.
And this is where things start to get really interesting, because when you start pulling at the threads of that official story, some pretty big questions start to pop up. Let's start with the most explosive piece of evidence. Literally, the gunpowder.
I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about that? We're talking about 2.5 tons of military-grade explosives. This wasn't something you could just pick up at the local market in 1605.
Yeah, the whole gunpowder situation it doesn't add up. First off, it was a government monopoly, kept under heavy guard in the Tower of London. So how on earth did a group of private citizens get their hands on tons of it? Second, the gunpowder back then was pretty unstable. If you left it in a damp cellar for months, it would have just decayed and become totally useless. And finally, the idea of moving all that explosive material into what was supposed to be a high-security area without anyone noticing, well, it really strains belief.
All right, on to the next major puzzle piece, the location. The crime scene itself. The plotters didn't just find a good spot. They found the absolute perfect spot at the absolute perfect time. It's almost a little too perfect. So get this, the official story says the plotters tried to dig a tunnel first, but it failed. And then, like a miracle, a storeroom right under the House of Lords just happens to become available for rent. And who's the landlord? A guy named John Wynyard, who just so happened to be a very close friend of the king's top spy master, Robert Cecil. Conspiracy theorists have a name for this kind of thing, a honey trap. It's a perfect setup, designed to lure your enemy right where you want them.
Now this might be the biggest red flag of them all. So the government gets this detailed warning letter about the plot. If the king's life is really on the line, you'd think they would act immediately, right? But that's not what happened at all.
Just look at this timeline. The spy master, Robert Cecil, gets the letter on October 26th, but he waits 5 whole days to show it to the king. Why would you do that? Then, on November 4th, they do a first search, they find Guy Fawkes just standing there, but they somehow miss the 36 barrels of gunpowder. It's only on a second search right at midnight that they miraculously discover it. This doesn't feel like a real investigation, it feels like a show, a carefully managed performance timed perfectly to have the biggest possible impact.
All of these weird details, all these questions, they all seem to point in one direction, to one man operating from the shadows. A man who had the motive, the means, and the opportunity to orchestrate this entire thing. Robert Cecil, the King's Secretary of State.
See, to really get Cecil, you have to understand that he ran the most sophisticated intelligence network in all of Europe. We're talking about the world's first modern surveillance state. So the idea that this huge plot involving all these people could have been a total surprise to him is, well, to a lot of historians, it's just laughable. He had eyes and ears everywhere.
And here's the kicker. The main players in the plot weren't strangers to him. Catesby, Tresham, and even Lord Montague, the supposed hero who turned in the letter, they were all involved in another failed coup just 4 years earlier.
These weren't new threats popping up out of nowhere. They were known traitors, and they were already on Cecil's watch list.
And then there's this, the potential smoking gun, from Cecil's own pen. Right after the plot was discovered, he wrote a letter admitting he'd had, quote, some knowledge of a Catholic stir several months prior. This wasn't a surprise. He was watching it all happen. So the real question is, was he just watching, or was he pulling the strings?
The aftermath of the plot is just as suspicious as the lead-up. You know, if Cecil really did stage manage this whole thing, then the final act had to be perfectly controlled to make sure that the official story was the only one that survived.
And boy, did they tidy up. Catesby and Percy, the two guys who knew everything, are killed in a shootout, conveniently silenced before anyone can question them. Francis Tresham, the man many people think wrote the warning letter, dies of a sudden illness while locked in the tower, right before his trial. You know what they say, dead men tell no tales. The trials that followed were just political theater, designed to blame not just these men, but all Catholics.
The one key player they did take alive was Guy Fawkes. And when they first caught him, he was completely unbroken. He showed zero remorse. He actually taunted his captors, saying his only regret was that he didn't succeed. This was a man with a will of iron.
Take a look at this. This is his signature before the worst of the torture began. It's clear, it's firm, it's a signature of a man who is still in control, even using his preferred Italian name, Guido.
And this is his signature after. It's barely even a mark on the page. Just a faint, shaky scrawl from a man who had been tortured so badly on the rack, his joints were likely dislocated. This is the physical proof of how the government got the confession it needed. They literally broke him.
So the story doesn't just end in 1605. Not at all. The cultural fallout from the Gunpowder Plot is still echoing today, but in a way that no one could have ever predicted. Its meaning has been completely turned on its head.
For 400 years, Guy Fawkes was the ultimate bad guy, the national bogeyman. But then, something incredible happened. Thanks to the comic book and movie V for Vendetta, his image was completely reclaimed. The mask of the traitor suddenly became the face of modern protest. In just a stunning turn of historical irony, Guy Fawkes is now a global symbol of rebellion against the exact same kind of surveillance state that trapped him in the first place.
And that brings us right back to our big question. Was the Gunpowder Plot a real conspiracy that was thankfully stopped at the last minute? Or was it an absolute masterpiece of political theater, a state-sponsored trap designed to crush an enemy and grab more power? The evidence is murky, the key players are long gone, and it leaves us all to wonder what really happened on the 5th of November.